Well, they want me to talk about stacking enterprises and bringing the next generation back, that sort of thing, and how can we do that? And one of the reasons is if you're going to bring the next generation back, it's really hard to put it all on the backs of the cows or whatever you're doing now. So how are you going to do that? And so I kind of ask my kids all the same thing. So what are you going to bring to the table? How are we going to do this? We're going to add 3 more families to this operation. Going back to our main goals, and that's bringing profitability back and trying to improve our quality of life and having a little fun again doing it. We looked at all of that. There's a couple of points I'd like to make, because if you're going to do this, set the business structure first. We didn't do that. And the problem is when you start something, you don't know, is it going to make a buck? Or will it make 100 or will it make $1 million? You don't have any idea. And if you don't set the business structure right, and then you go down the road and then it becomes successful, it's hard to go in and say, oh, by the way, this is really good and we all want a piece of it now. And that has created some challenges for us. So my advice is set the business structure right. We've LLC'd all these things, and we can talk about this as we move on, because there are issues. And this is no secret, but families are a challenge. But it's really exciting to have all my kids back there. And I'm far enough away from home, so I think I can say this so I get shot. But they do a crazy thing. They go and get married. And they bring a bunch of girls that bring a guy too, hopefully. And these girls are great girls. But 2 of them did not grow up on a ranch or anything to do with agriculture, and they don't get it. They don't look at it like I did or even my boys did. And it doesn't mean they're not good girls, but it does create issues. One daughter-in-law came from a ranch, she gets it. And the other 2, in my opinion, actually resent that. So it takes time, and they're getting better. They have to mature. So do I, so does they. It's different because you were in charge. And just to back up, our place has been in family since 1882. My dad and my grandfather were together. The first generation, I don't think if they're up there looking down there, like, I don't know, we were just trying to stay warm and put food on the table. These crazy people are wanting to make this multi-generational. For me, it was just my dad and me. My brother was involved for a while. My brother was an alcoholic, unfortunately, and got married 4 times and had some real serious issues. And we had to buy him out. And it took him a long time. We're finally close now. It took a long time. Families are a challenge. The one thing I would say, and we're going through a whole succession plan. We've been doing this for 3 years. It's like herding cats. I think we're going to get there. I always said I will not be a failure. I can list, and all of you that have been involved in families know of somebody that didn't get it right and it ruined their place. I can list a half dozen real quick. And it's sad. Couple right next to us. We brought in some professional help on the succession, and we ended up pretty much firing 2 of them because we always got to one place. We can do all the business structure, we can do all the things that need to be done, but when you get to that one place where the boys, and they all did the long-term vision and goals, man, if you read them all and mine, we're right on the same page. We all want the same thing. We really do. But when you got to that one point, and it goes back to, for the good of the order, let's put all these entities in an overriding company and spread it, take care of debt, taxes, upkeep, and then the brakes come on a little bit. Because I do. It's me. I'm just telling you, honest, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly of doing this. And don't get me wrong, it's really rewarding and fun and all that. But my point on there, if you don't get the family dynamics right, you can throw the rest away because it will not be successful. It just won't. Business structure won't matter. can own 100,000 acres, won't matter. You can have no debt, it won't matter. Our bed talk was, will anybody show up for Christmas by the time this is over, you know? Because you start to build walls. I think we're way past that now. My kids had to mature, they had to understand it. They actually had to look in the mirror and say, do I want to tear this apart? Because we were at the point where we said, okay, if we're not going to be able to do this, then we're going to rent to you. And you can still do your operation, which we'll talk about, but it's going to be rent. Well, they're quickly doing the math. Well, I think rent's $100 or $50. I'm like, well, somewhere you missed something. I just throw that out kind of as a point of look at that first. As you bring family back, you've got to get the family dynamics right. You need to work at it. Bringing in the professional helps. It isn't all perfect. They can only do so much, and you have to make hard decisions. It's the hardest thing of all the things we've done. My degree in animal science, my savory school, none of it prepared you for this. It's the number one thing facing agriculture is succession, and where most places won't talk about it because it's hard to talk about. You're not going to be around, and who's going to run it, and do you want it to succeed, and are you willing to give up so it can succeed? All those things that you got to go through. So I don't want to belabor it, but I want to make sure you get this, and most of you do, but most of you won't look in the mirror and say, I got to start today. And I had one piece of advice that really helped me. We were dealing with a financial manager helping us with our business stuff. And he said to me one day, you know what your problem is? He said, you want perfect. And because you can't find perfect, you do nothing. And I said, my honey's right. I could not find perfect as I moved towards succession and structure and all that. And so then I just kicked the can down the road. And once I realized that, and he said, you just have to start, and then you continually evolve and you continue to change it. And that's what we've done, and we're continuing to change it. And I will not be a failure. I won't accept it. So we'll get there, and we're closer every day, I think. We've added a lot of different entities. And there are some that are simple, just agricultural things. Like adding yearlings. We have our own cattle, but then we buy a bunch of yearlings, run them on our grass system. And then we also, and I mentioned this yesterday, custom grazing. Again, I'm a true believer in custom grazing because you can do it without owning everything. And yet you manage them, you make it work, and it has a real opportunity to add some value in an operation. And then as I mentioned too yesterday, we added another species, and it's buffalo or bison, take your pick. And they've been good. They're a majestic animal. My youngest boy absolutely loves them, but they do have some challenges. We also added, because everybody's talking about multi-species grazing, we added sheep for a short year. It didn't really work very well. And we just went out, Jace went out, my youngest boy, and bought, 30 hair sheep. Because I kept harping about multi-species grazing is really the answer. We need to be doing it. So we brought these 30 head of hair sheep home because we didn't want to have to shear them. And then we put them out and we bound them to these heifers over the course of spring. And they were really bound. And it really looked like it was going to work. Then we put them out in these grazing systems. And with all these electric fences, and they wouldn't respect them. And they kept wandering off. And we were spending all our time trying to find 30 head of sheep all the time. And I'm like, this is dumb. Buffalo and everything, and we're spending all our time on 30 head of sheep. And they got over to the neighbors one day. We've got this old gal that's not the friendliest gal in the world anyway. I mean, and they got in her garden. And I'm over there on a four-wheeler, and I'm going around her house trying to catch these stupid 30 head of sheep. And she's out there staring at me, and it wasn't very damn pretty, you know. And finally I stopped and I said, for God, Karen, I'm really sorry, but if they get over here again, I'm going to hang these son of bitches. Then she loved the sheep and it wasn't a problem anymore. She didn't want to see me hang them, but I was serious because I'd had enough. Anyway, long story short, I'm still convinced multi-species grazing is the answer. But we should have walked 1,000 of them because it would have been simpler and we would have got our crap together. The 30 are gone now, and someday we're going to do this and do it right. But right now we're not. Just a picture of some of our buffalo. This is our biggest stacked enterprise, the most successful. When my oldest boy was going to NDSU, he called me and he said, Dad, I'm coming back. Do you think we could be successful running a hunting operation? We've been giving this away for years to people, and maybe you get a bottle of whiskey at Christmas or whatever. And I'm not saying that isn't fun and good and all that, but I said maybe. When we very first started, we just gave them a map of the ranch and we didn't charge them very much. And we just kind of let them go. And we put an ad in the Minneapolis paper and we had these people come. And at the end, we didn't get rich doing it, we had a little money. That seemed to work. And then the rest is history. We added lodging, we added guides, and we're completely full service. Pick people up at the airport because they fly in from everywhere. The day we left, there was a brain surgeon there from New York. There was a couple lawyers from South Carolina. There was a executive chef from Boston. You stand there around the bar, you drink a beer with them or talk to them. I mean, they just common Joes. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I went to Harvard and I'm a brain surgeon, a top rated brain surgeon on the East Coast. And I'm like, this little short guy, The story in that is it's impressive. You meet a lot of people, you get to talk to a lot of folks that also consume beef and know about agriculture and sometimes think we're ruining it. It rounds you. And honestly, for me, because I think the world's going to heck most of the time, it gives me hope because I'm like, God, there's a lot of good people out there yet, and maybe we will save this. So anyway, it's Rolling Plains Adventures. You can find it online. It's very successful. It's really good. My oldest boy works his hind den off. The good news is it's only about a 3-month stint and then it's over. It's waterfowl, it's pheasants, mule deer, white-tailed deer, like I told you, blue tongue wiped out the whitetail, so they're coming back. And then the buffalo hunts have been a big deal and growing, and it's not for everybody. You get some people, a lot of times, they're not all wealthy, but some are. One flew in on his own jet with his own camera crew. Jace wasn't there. I had to help with it. Normally don't. We're on the top of this bluff in North Dakota in the middle of January, and it's 20 below and the wind's blowing. And once they had shot him, he shot him with a bow because he wanted to do it in the old time way, like the Indians did. So I went there with a tractor because we got to lift this thing up and get it on a truck and get it to the butcher. And his camera crew wants it turned like 4 times so the light's better. So I'm out there moving the chains, moving it in this wind, and after about 4 times, it's getting old. And I said to him, well, if you're so tough and want to do it like the Indians, why aren't you wearing a loincloth? They were great people, and it was fun, and they had a successful hunt. And that's been the most successful one. It's the one that has the capacity to change everything. And if you like that sort of thing, you should look at it. But it's not as simple as you think. We got an old truck that sits out in our yard as you come in because it was from the older generations and was quite a truck and it stayed all white. And so they love to get picture taken around that as you come into the place. And, they have good hunts. And we just did establish a game farm, and that allows us to get outside of the season. And we just took a section of land, and that's a game farm now. And then you have to raise birds on that because there are some laws. But it allows us on these corporate hunts, North Dakota gets cold like Alaska. Some people don't really want to walk in a cover crop field chasing pheasants when it's very cold. So it allows us to start earlier. and to do our own thing. And that's really been helpful to us. This is a cool story because this is an F-18 carrier pilot that was there. If you look at those two deer, they're hooked together. They were fighting, and the deer in the back is eaten from the coyotes clear up to his neck. I can't imagine being the other deer. These coyotes are hanging on this other one eating it, and you're trying to get away. And this day he's going to leave, and we're standing down there because these guys from Wisconsin had flown in a Huey helicopter. They had way too much money and bought this for a toy and hired an ex-Marine to fly them around hunting. And we're watching that. This guy's standing next to me, and I said, I'm watching them take off, and I said, ain't that cool? And he said, it's nothing like pushing a throttle on an F-18. I'm like, I bet you're right. This was bow hunting, and he had left, and he forgot his bow in the deer stand, and he went back to get it, and then found these and was able to shoot that. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime thing. And the funny part is my oldest son was just somewhere, I can't remember where it was. And he's standing next to this guy, and here they decide they know each other. It's this F-18 pilot was there. He's still in the Navy, still flying off a carrier. Just a great story. I mean, that's the fun of doing some of this. You run into some really cool people, and I admire the vets that give it all for us. And, it was just a neat thing. Anyway, here's the buffalo hunt. Most people want a trophy they can hang on the wall, but we're getting more and more that actually want the health benefits of that very lean meat and want a younger buffalo to hunt, which is good for us because it's hard to have a lot of big bulls that make the trophies. My middle son worked for Anheuser-Busch. He went to Arizona State. He's the one rebel that went to a non-land-grant university. He was telling us how great academia is at Arizona State. As I'm picking up a publication that says the #1 party school in the nation. And I'm like, well, I know what this was about. It had nothing to do with academia. He graduated and went to work for Anheuser-Busch. And then they moved him to Austin, Texas, and he went through the Beer University and all that stuff. And absolutely, I thought had it made. He never paid for anything. It was all on a credit card. And we knew why Bud Light cost so much because guys like my son are running up their credit cards. InBev bought out the Bush family. He knew it wasn't going to be the same. And it's not, as we watched Bud Light kind of go down the tubes with stupid marketing, in my opinion. And so he called and wanted to come home, and we were glad to have him. But it was a challenge because now we've got another person. And so that's how we got into agritourism. And then he had the dream to do a microbrew. And so we have a brewery in the barn. Bison Beer, if you go to NDSU, 10-time national champions, Bison Beer is the craft beer of the NDSU Bison. We own the trademark nationally. I don't know if I told any of this story, but I'll just tell you, here ranch in North Dakota is really trying to do something cool for NDSU, which is our land grant institution. They should embrace that. And they sort of do. But the football team is a big deal. But Bud Light comes along and decides this little craft beer is kind of stomping on our territory. And so they paint their can green, put a bison head on it, which is illegal in our trademark. But the lawyer tells us, well, you can sue them, and you're right. But they'll break you because they have lots of attorneys and a big check mark. And so what are you going to do? We kind of tried to push on ADSU a little, and they've tried to treat us right. But Bud Light just writes them a check for $100,000 and says, here, go take care of your football team. And I don't blame them, but it's kind of a shame, but that's the world we're living through. And so, I was on a Zoom call with the head of athletics one day, and I just said, do you guys care about North Dakota or not? If you don't, that's fine. It'll just go away. And I'm just trying to be honest. And it was a good call, and I think they got it. I wasn't impressed. And not that it fixed everything. But anyway, it's been exciting. Bison beer is good. If you ever get a chance to get down that way to have some, it's good beer. And you can see the tap handles. I told Jay right away, you better give one to every fraternity at NDSU because they're all going to steal them because I was in one. I know how this works because they're cool. A cool thing, I can tell you, the margin in beer is not tremendous. But as we have agritourism, it adds to the ambience. The logo for the Black Lake Brewery And we related it all back to the ranch. Here's the facility. I think it's like a 50 keg. I'm not a beer expert. Jay is an absolute expert at it. He's dumped a lot of beer. If it don't meet his taste, it's going down the tube. And then agritourism, which this all relates to. I think I told the story. This is early time ranch house. It was a Sears and Roebuck kid house, came in on the railroad to Little Ghost Town of Britain, which is on the ranch. My dad was born on a kitchen table there, died 80 years, 8 or 10 feet away. Lots of stories around that. The boys were going to tear it down because they wanted a liquor license and a commercial kitchen. And I talked them out of tearing it down, and it's beautiful. They did it all. They rebuilt it. They said never again. So we bring a lot of people there for corporate groups, a lot of soil health tours, a lot of grazing tours, a lot of ag things. Again, it's why I love it, because I want to tell a positive story about agriculture and get consumers on our side. This is the inside of the lodge, set up for hunting, and we'll actually have anywhere from 30 to 45 people there every night during hunting season for dinner. We have a chef, we have 5 guides, and several other helpers help with it all. And it turned out really nice, and we're proud of it. And the people that come love that ranch history. They love, and they make me appreciate it, because they'll walk across the yard and go, look at those beautiful stars. And I know you have awesome northern lights up here. We do too. Maybe not as good, but we do. And the other night they were just awesome. Every hunter was outside. Just, wow, they don't see this where they're at in the eastern United States, and they can't see the stars because there's too many lights there. And then they can hear a coyote. It's all the things that we take for granted in our rural areas. And I go, wow, we take this all for granted. We need to appreciate it. It kind of drives you. This is the other end of it, and you can see the big buffalo on the fireplace there. I don't think I told you the story. One day we got a call from the highway patrol, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this guy was on Highway 83, and they said, you raise buffalo? And I should have said no, but I didn't. And we went down there, and he was upset, and I don't know why he left it. It's beautiful along the creek and the trees, and he was going down on the highway, and then he was heading towards the Missouri River, and he was mad. We tried to get him in a corral, and that didn't work. He tore that down and ran, and then we started running through some houses, and there was toys outside, and I was scared to death. Somebody's going to get hurt. And we decided we had to shoot him. And we had not taken a rifle with, but there was a friend of ours there with a 243, and a 243 is not enough to shoot a buffalo. We learned it early. Because Jeremy, my oldest boy, and my youngest boy, Jace, got up alongside him with an ATV, and of course, buffaloes going like this, and they're bouncing all over, and they shot him 8 times. And he just like swatting flies. And once we got a 7mm there and put him down, and then we got him to the butcher shop, not one of those other shells had penetrated his bolt. And I'm like, wow, them things are strong. So anyway, he hit me right. There was a spot right on a year in Buffalo. If you hit them there with a 22, they're going right down with that. If you're really trying to get them like that, a 7mm or something big, 300 mag or something, it's got to be something that'll penetrate. This is our barn. It was my grandfather built this. At the end, it was kind of our feed facility. We were using it, and because we went back to grass and weren't using a lot of grain in these livestock, we weren't using it much. When Jay started the agritourism, he kept asking me, can I have that barn? And I kept saying no. There was no real good reason other than I just didn't want it to be something else. And I said that for about 3 years, and then I'm like, I'm not even doing what I preach when I talk about get out of the way. And I'm the problem. And finally said, yeah, you can have it. And it's allowed us to do. This is an event in their wedding, I'm presuming, because now we do weddings there as well, which are really good, but have their challenges. Mothers of the brides. I'm sure none of the women in here are a problem as a mother of the bride. So anyway, it allows us another avenue to do some things. And then corporate events are a lot of fun usually. And again, a bride and groom out by the old truck there. It's a big picture taker thing. And then kind of the last things, when Jace came back, and Jace is the cowboy, he went to Montana State, he rodeoed there, and he's He was born, everybody in the family says he was born 100 years too late. He just liked to ride a horse across with no cross fences, like John Wayne does in the movie. So that would be Jace. So we started Blackleg Ranch Meats, grass-finished beef and bison, Audubon certified. We are a conservation ranch. I could write a book on Audubon. These programs are good, but they're not doing what they need to do. They will not, I'm just going to say this because somebody said yesterday, I admire your honesty. And I said, yeah, you got to quit that. You're going to get big trouble. But it's true. I mean, I'm all about Audubon and saving the birds, and they do some really good things, and I like that. But this conservation ranching program is a good program, and they signed up people, and we're supposed to be bird friendly and all that, and I get it. And I was on the steering committee when we started it, and I was so excited. But they will not let an email go to their membership that is, and I know there's vegan people there, that's fine. But if you're gonna buy beef, then support these conservation ranches, and they won't do it. I don't know why they won't do it, but they won't do it. And I'm presuming it's because they've got big fundraisers in downtown Boston or somewhere that don't like that many. I don't know. And so it's a shame. We're still doing it, but nobody comes to us and buys our beef because we have an Audubon sticker on it. And my youngest boy says, the day they come and say, well, we got Audubon beef, we want to buy it, I will support you a lot more, but they don't. And so all these certifications are good, but like I said yesterday, we have a bit of a mixed up system. We're not all doing the same thing. We're not paying attention to making sure if it's grass finished, make sure it's grass finished. No, oh, we'll just throw corn in for a couple of weeks just to give it a little bit more marbling and then say it's grass finished. We confuse the consumer and they end up eating chicken all the time. You know, it's just some of our meat things we have been shipping all over, and then it has to be USDA inspected. It's a challenge because we lost many of the small little packing plants. I harp on this when I get out speaking to politicians around North Dakota or whatever. If we don't get this figured out, we're going to lose the ranch to fork thing altogether. There are so many in North Dakota that have quit selling beef because it is a headache. It's not all simple. And as the price of cattle rose, you can't raise your price of meat proportionately. So we're actually taking a bit of a loss on what you could do just selling those heifers to the sale barn. So anyway, we'll see. I still think there's a lot of opportunity there. We'll see where that goes long term. But I'll leave you with this, and then hopefully if you have some questions. This whole thing of stacking enterprises creates some excitement and get the hell out of the way. I'm serious. You cannot expect these young people, there's quite a few in this room, to come back to these ranches and not have you move over and not have some fun and excitement. And it's crazy at our place sometimes. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people. Somebody asked me that yesterday, and I said, if my dad was alive, he'd go crazy. He wouldn't like all those people there. It wasn't that easy for me either. You know, you have a wedding, you've got people running around it. The joke was, and my youngest boy, he doesn't really care for it. He's gotten smarter because now they're in business all together and he sees the potential. But on a Saturday, you can't use the shop because the shop is close to the barn and they don't really need a baler sitting in their way. Just because he would be bullheaded, he'd come from a rodeo with 4 horses on and come down the hill with his jake brake on and boil through the wedding folks. And Renee's up there in the house shaking and oh my God, this is going to cause a war. And he says, well, I don't see what the big deal is. We've gotten better at that. Questions?
So first of all, marketing. How do you have another kid that does marketing for you? Do your kids live on site? I mean, are they close by? Are you guys on some sort of a nice little ranch compound together?
Jace lives on the ranch. And the good thing is, he lives on the south part of the ranch, and we had to move him, spread him a little bit. He don't like what's going on in the main part necessarily. He's down a little more secluded. That's perfect. The other 2 actually live in Bismarck because their wives when they did that, they were both working in town and they said it was better for them to drive out. And quite honestly, financially, that's better. A house in Bismarck value goes like that. A house on the ranch is just going to sell with the property. So it was good. I mean, it isn't perfect, but they're driving back and forth. Like when hunting's going on, Jeremy stays at the ranch full time. When there's events, Jay runs that side, stays. We have some lodging in the barn. We have some lodging for staff in the bottom of the other lodge. Marketing, we could do better. If you're not doing anything, you want to come down for a while.
Well, I'd like to learn. Obviously, you have something working.
Yeah, we have an internship program on the ranch. We bring college kids in for the summer. You get paid some, you have to work, but hopefully you get to learn some of this about soil health, pasture management. They get a touch of agritourism. They're generally on the ranch. They don't get to see hunting very well because they haven't started. But we had one of them that's wife was really good at marketing, and we kind of employed her to do that for a while. I despise Facebook and those kinds of things. I mean, there's good in it, but I'm not on it because I don't need more drama in my life. Jay's pretty good because he grew up in the corporate world. So then you're on Instagram, and I don't know all the ones that are out there, and then constantly showing things that are going on in the ranch, and people comment and they like it. So could we do better? Yeah, I think we can, but there's a website for the hunting, there's a website for the meats, there's a website for the ranch, there's a website for the beer, and then there's Facebook pages for all that.
Having LLC to them all separately.
Yeah, we have. We didn't have that to start with. Now they're all LLC. What I would have liked to see, and we haven't done that, is an overriding company. Again, where a share of it goes up, pay debt, pay taxes, and that's where I ran into trouble with boys that build these entities saying, oh, so we haven't done that yet. I think we might be able to do that without that overriding company. They've come to realize they're going to have to take they can't just pocket those profits anymore. We were pretty good to them. Said you can use any asset we have to build things, and so we didn't charge them. That's a mistake. Charge your kids right away. Even if it's $50 rent, get them in the mold that it isn't all free. We've always treated our kids too good, in my opinion, across the country. And my kids aren't spoiled, but they get just a tad entitled in that. And they know now because we've had some pretty hard talks. And they also know when it comes down to it, I will protect the ranch. What does that mean? It means the youngest one needs the ranch assets to be a cattleman, a cowboy, and a buffalo person. The others don't really need the assets. Yeah, they can still operate with agreements. Now, in the big picture, if they don't own part of it, that's not a good decision on their part because not that you're going to sell it, but it gives you equity. So does that help you?
Yeah, it does. And so early on, when you were, especially first get started with the boys and what ventures they were doing, did you have any ventures that just flopped?
Ventures that flop. Yeah, sheep, yeah. I'll tell you, the meats thing is not very profitable right now. My daughter-in-law that runs that's my youngest boy Jason's wife, Cassie. They have a set of twins that are 2. They have Jordy that's 4, and they're expecting. And she's overwhelmed. So I don't know what we're going to do with that. I don't want to quit, and yet we're going to have to back off because she isn't going to be able to run it for a while. We don't really want to get back into daily stuff like that. So we're going through that. I still think there's real opportunity there, but it's not making any money. I mean, yeah, it's paying the bills, but that's it. My wife just said making movies didn't work. We haven't. United Kingdom came to our place and did a whole documentary. It was kind of it was supposed to be funny. They taped for 3 months, I think, on the ranch. It was kind of annoying and yet somewhat fun reality type show. It kind of flopped in the UK. And I didn't know this at the time. Branding's illegal in the United Kingdom. Part 1 of the shows was all about on horseback and branding calves and all that. And when the show came out, All of that was in there except no smoke from an iron or any of that. And then there were some issues going on in the UK around that time. I think that I heard it. It's on YouTube. You can, what do they call it? Our little farm. The title is completely stupid in my opinion, because it's nothing like that. But anyway, you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, when you open your ranch to the public, what kind of impact did you have from invasive weeds coming in with these vehicles and the feed? I have the same problem. Even when I invite people to come to help me collect my cows, make a place where they park their trucks and jump their wheelers off, and there are weeds. And what did you find?
I don't think we've really had an issue with that. You know, they're pretty well confined to where it's gravel around the yard. They park in a little grassy area, but we don't use that for anything else. So, you know, when we do a tour and we do ranch tours for NRCS or whatever it might be, but most of the people, you know, if they come on a bus and then we walk out or take a wagon, I don't know, I just haven't seen it. That's interesting.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody.